Hello, everybody. Well, welcome to another stream. I appreciate y'all jumping in. I'm going to be monitoring my comments. Hey, Alex, Wintry, Snowman, Pablo, Fluffy. I like that name. That's a cool name. I don't know. How's everyone doing? So visually, I can see we're good to go. Audio wise, you guys want to confirm for me that everything is just fine audio wise? It's before we start really diving into things here. Loud and clear. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it. So this is the last stream before the Sculpt-Off. So the summit is pretty much 1 week away. It's next week. So this stream is to help you all that are competing in the Sculpt-Off. Plus, obviously, we're going to be giving you tons of tips and tricks in this stream. So it's going to benefit everybody. But I really want to make sure I can answer as many questions as I can for the Sculpt-Off, especially all those that are competing. Those that are competing, raise the hand. Okay, thank you. So again, this is open to everybody. The Sculpt-Off is next Saturday, right? And anybody can participate. We're giving away over $30,000 worth of prizes to you, the artist, okay? Along with obviously the summit itself. So the Sculpt-Off is just the kickoff, okay? So again, I want to cover really quickly. You're just going to go to summit.pixologic.com, okay? And then you're going to come here to call for artists. That's the actual official page where all the Sculpt-Off information is at. Nope, testing out. No, I'm using the system, Wintry, that we're actually going to be using for the summit. So I'm doing a test run with you guys. We've used it before, but I just like to test things out. Okay, so again, you can register right here by clicking this register button, or right in here, you just fill all your information out, send in your application. Okay, that's it. So all the information that you need is here. It's right here for you all. Okay, and again, if you do have questions, you can also just send to this email address, zbrushsummit@pixologic.com. Okay, this is a ZBrush challenge, so you can only use ZBrush. So you either use ZBrush, ZBrush Core, ZBrush Core Mini, and we just updated our trial. So our trial is now version 2021.5.1. So one of those. Everything must be done inside of ZBrush. There's no other applications that you can use, including all your rendering must be done inside of ZBrush. Okay? So all your rules are right here. Okay, and if you've never streamed before, because one of the main things that you must do is you must stream for the 3 hours of the competition. We need to be able to see that you completed the model in those 3 hours, number one. But number two, myself, Jessica Drew, and my main man, Joseph Drust, will be hosting that event on Saturday. Okay, and we're going to be jumping around to you, to your streams, looking at what you guys are making, commenting about it. It was a lot of fun last year. It's part of the fun that you guys get to have doing this. So you got to have that. That's just one of the things. So I strongly recommend reading all of your contest rules through and through. Like, take the time to click on this link, okay, and really go through it and make sure you understand the rules, because there are things you're going to be required to do in order to qualify for all the stuff that we're giving away, okay? So I would strongly recommend, like, one of the big things is you got to have a graphic on your screen that you download. It shows you're part of the Sculpt-Off. You got to title your stream with this title in here, so we know you're part of the Sculpt-Off, all right? And then submitting images is going to be important. What you can use, right? How you submit images is really important, okay? And we have an official page that you have to go post them on. And then we have 3 judges that are going to be judging this. Okay, so our judges for this are going to be Joe Mena, Raphael Grassetti, and Shane Olson. So they're picking who the winners are, and they're going through that. But your theme is right here, Reimagine. So this is, again, taking as if you were the first person ever being hired to come up with a very well-known maybe character, or maybe it's not so well-known character. You're just reimagining something that maybe already exists, but you're starting from scratch with it, i.e. if you wanted to reimagine like Wolverine, right? What would you have done for Wolverine if you were given that task? You're the very first artist to do it, right? So you can pick anything that Bugs Bunny, or something. Obviously, the goal here is not to be copying exactly what already exists in the market or that IP. It's coming up with a new concept, a new idea. Like, what if something that is organic, instead of being organic, was hard surface? Or let's say like Astro Boy. What if Astro Boy wasn't actually a mech robot kid and he was actually a real kid? Or maybe it's not a kid, maybe he's a teenager and it's a person, right? And then he's got a jetpack or something on him, right? That kind of stuff is what we'll be looking for, okay? And for all of you that are competing, here are your prizes. But every single one of you walk away with something. Every one of you that submit your image in that thread that we have designated just for the Sculpt-Off, and obviously can't be breaking any rules, you all are going to get the XMD Toolbox, which is a $69.95 value for free. Okay, and this is a great plugin that's been made for ZBrush that allows you guys, you can search for tools, you can search for projects, you can make tags, you can do a lot of stuff in it. And then it's going to come with a ton of brushes that also have alphas with it. So you guys are getting a really fantastic value just for competing. And then those that are winning the Sculpt-Off itself, we have all these other companies involved giving stuff away, right? We've got computer, we've got... I'm sorry, dropped my pen. We've got a 3D printer. We've got a Cintiq. We've got software. We've got classes. Guys, it's a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of fun to be able to compete in this. So I strongly recommend, if you've never done this, jump in there. And the other thing I'd recommend, if you've never streamed ever, I'm serious, take the time to practice streaming at least a couple times before the Sculpt-Off, so you can understand your system, whether you're using YouTube or Twitch, and then all your hardware working with that. Okay, and we give you guys a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps right here. So this is stream setup. If you click on this link, it's going to send you a page where we're walking you through kind of what you need to do if you've never streamed ever before. So it's just literally like 5 steps. Just follow this, and then you should be good to go to start streaming. Okay, and I'd strongly recommend, okay, to do that. Can you tell us how we begin the stream? I.e., do we start the stream up early and then only launch ZBrush when the call out happens? Yeah, so that's up to you. You can start your stream early if you want, because you want to get people maybe in, right, and watching, because you guys are going to have people come in your stream and start talking to you in your stream, right? So that's fine. You just cannot sculpt at all inside of ZBrush, period, okay? We are going to start our broadcast at 12 p.m. noon time, Los Angeles time, Pacific Daylight Savings Time, okay? We're going to be going at noon, okay? And we're going to be going through the rules again, letting people know how this is going to look for all those people who are going to be watching our stream, what we're going to be doing. I will go through the stuff again like what I'm doing with you guys right now for the general public and for you. I would recommend probably putting our stream on your other monitor, because then at 12:30 is when you guys start sculpting. And you can't start sculpting until we tell you to go. We are literally going to have a countdown that says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, start. And until we do that, you do not do anything inside of ZBrush, okay? So it's fine to start, but just don't touch ZBrush. Don't go in there. Don't start sculpting or doing anything like that inside of ZBrush, okay? You don't need to start really early. And that's why I say do practice ones, because then you're comfortable. You can do exactly what I just do for these. I start the stream 5 minutes before I'm going live. You can start 10 minutes before you're going live, just so you can make sure everything's working for you. Make a loading page, maybe like I did here, which is, hey, stream starting soon, kind of a thing, just to help you. I would probably recommend that, Wintry Snowman. Does that answer your question and help you out? Hopefully that gives you all the answers you're looking for. Okay, so if you guys haven't signed up, if you're watching this stream right now, you haven't signed up, and you got ZBrush, or just go get the trial, you're getting already something, right? So it should be a lot of fun. I'm telling you, this kind of stuff is also a really great way for you to challenge yourself, and you'll learn a lot. When you challenge yourself, hey, I got to get this sculpt done in a day. I got to get this sculpt done in 2 days. I got to get this sculpt done in 3 hours. You'll learn a lot about little tricks and tips and things that you can do. It's very helpful. And on the bottom of this is already all the people that have signed up. So everyone's going to be able to come to this page as well, okay, and be able to click on anything that they want to tune into. If they see a person that they recognize, they'll be able to click on their name. So I strongly recommend giving this a shot if you've never done it, okay? And so for this stream, I'm answering any questions that I can help you guys out with. So if there's stuff that you in particular would like to know a little bit more about feature-wise or something that you want to use in the Sculpt-Off, you got to let me know here in this stream, and I'll try and get to it and cover it as much as I want. So I already have a couple items that already come to me in email. All right. So I'm going to start with one of them that came to me in an email that I think is probably going to, for all of you. So this person in particular, you can kind of guess what this is going to be, a lightsaber, right? And what that person in the email is like, hey, how do I make a glowing lightsaber inside of ZBrush? Okay, so I'm going to do it all by rendering. Okay, so you can see there's my render. And so now I've got a lightsaber, right? Glowing inside of ZBrush. So this is going to help you all to what I'm going to show you right now. It's not just for an item like this. This will help you too, maybe if you're doing some kind of mech and you want to have like some kind of maybe glowing lights or things like that. This will be really helpful for you for this, okay? And again, I'm only using rendering for this to accomplish this, all right? So I'm going to just open up my tray over here. And in here, I'm just doing straight default rendering, right? Okay, so I've changed nothing as far as the render. The only thing I'm changed in here is I'm using 4 filters to make this happen. Okay, and what's nice about the filtering system is it's real time. Okay, so when I make changes, I'm seeing all the changes there, right? Wow, you guys weren't impressed with my lightsaber? No comments. Okay. So you can see there are 4 filters right here being used. And I know that because these open circles means that filter's actually on. This means that's off. So there's only 4 filters being used. So I'm going to walk you through, guys, kind of how I'm doing this. For example, and I'm only using 3 total. This is a blur, this is paint, this is another blur, and then this is an Orton. Okay, so if you watch, if I turn some of these off, you'll start seeing how I'm getting to the result, right? Because that's my render. Thanks, Rodolfo. It's not that amazing. Okay. So, the whole 3 hours. You don't have to even talk in the stream for your Sculpt-Off. You're not required to talk during your stream. So you can speak any language that you want. If you want to talk to your audience, go ahead and talk to your audience. Having a webcam is optional as well. I would recommend it though, because it just gives you a connection to the people watching you, because you are going to have people jump into your guys' stream and watch you and communicate with you in your chat, right? So I personally would throw a webcam on. That's not a requirement. The only requirement is we need to see ZBrush the whole time, that whole 3 hours. That's the #1 requirement. You don't have to talk. You don't have to have a webcam. Those 2 things are optional, okay? Oh, someone saw him. Alex, you saw him, huh? Creeping over the shoulder. Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do here is, again, we're just going to render, and I'm going to walk you through these 4 filters and what I'm doing to make this kind of give what I'm trying to have here is have a glowing like lightsaber. Right? So the first thing is just render. So I'm just hitting this BPR button, or Shift R is the shortcut. And now let's just start throwing some filters on this. Okay? So I'm going to go and I'll restart the filter system as well here. So let's see, render filters. We'll load the defaults. So we're back to nothing. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the first filter. All right? And this is something that'll be handy for you guys to really see what the filters are doing for you, right? I'm just going to switch to paint right out the gate, okay? And I'm going to pick a color that's very noticeable, i.e. red, okay? So it's a very noticeable color, okay? And so these are my filter section right in here. So this is in essence, what filters do I want on? What filter do I want to select? And then what controls do I want to have in the filter? Everything below this modifiers button and lower is, again, like a clipping. Like, how do I want to clip the filter. Do I want it to only affect the model? So in this case, it's only affecting the model. Or do I want the opposite and go -1, and then it's only affecting the document and it's not touching the model, right? So all these are just kind of some kind of clipping ways of saying, hey, do I want to affect the shadows? Do I not want to affect the shadows? That's what all these sliders are, right? So this is shadows only, right? This is the opposite. Now it's not affecting the shadows. And then you can do multiple clipping, right? You can do now this is not touching the shadows and it's only going on the lightsaber. That's it. That's all it's going on, right? So that's what these are doing. So what I'm going to do is, since we're talking about a particular item, i.e. this part of the lightsaber, I'm going to come down here to the color clip. And I'm going to click and drag and then just drag over and pick the color that I've chosen to use on this part of the lightsaber. Okay? I'm just keeping up with you guys. Andre, you'd have to tune in. I couldn't say, Andre. You'd have to tune in for that question. Okay. How did you make it so that only the saber blade? I'm showing you that right now, how only the saber blade's getting it, right? So I've now picked the color, and then what I'm going to do is just say hue. And now you can see the red, right, is really looking at that hue and really going on that lightsaber right now. Okay, or that color in essence, okay? And then what I'm going to add to this is another element. So besides just doing this, so we can say really red, right? Okay, now all I'm doing is turning up this paint filter up a little bit more, right? So it's 100%. That's what this is. Do I want it 100% or not? Okay, and I'm going to come here and I'm just going to say, let's have it kind of spread out a little bit more. Give it a little bit more spread. And let's even blur that spread a little bit, right? So what I'm doing is I'm making the masking border of this filter go wider, right? So you can see you can keep going really wide with this. Okay, so I'm going to say that's probably pretty good. And then I want to blur so it's not harsh. So I'm going to throw a little bit of a blur on there. And then obviously this is not the filter I want. So now this helps me visually see what I'm doing. And what I really want this to be is an Orton. Because I kind of want to just start putting a little bit, some kind of nice little glowing element in here right out the gate. Okay? That's what I'm looking for. All right, so because now this is an Orton, it's just going out. And now you guys now know if you go out wider, it's just going to spread out more. Okay? And then you can blur it more and more and more, and it's just pushing it back more. But instead of using just this blur, okay, I'm not going to go too extreme with this blur. Because then what I want to do is I want to start blurring all this generally. Okay, so I want to blur this not with just the filter, but I want that model also to start blurring a little bit. Okay, so in the second filter, all right, I'm going to do this same thing, which it's got by default, blur is on. I'm going to say, let's go ahead. I only want to be blurring anything that's got this color in it. And so I'm going to select that hue. Okay, and so now that blur, let's turn it all the way up. And then down here, there's a radius to the blur, okay? So this will start blurring more of that, okay? What I'm looking to blur, right? So I'm picking a color, right? And figure out what kind of blurring do I want to start having happen in this, okay? So again, first thing is an Orton, right? And we're controlling this, right? So how far out do you want it to go? Okay, and then we are capping this again, or clipping as I like to say, with a color, right? And then we have a border going onto this. And then this one, we're just blurring, right? And then you can even throw a little bit of border on this as well. Just give a little bit of that inner and have an extra little blurring going on in there, right? So I'm doubling up things like this. Okay, and then now this is some kind of, lit object, and in this case, a lightsaber is pretty bright, right? So it's hot. It's really hot in the middle, so I need to do something for that, okay? So I'm going to turn on a third filter, and again, let's just select as a filter type. Let's just go ahead and do paint again, all right? And I'm going to select red, okay? So we have that red. And because I only want this happening really here, I'm going to do that again. And so now we have this. And now I'm going to turn this all the way up, the paint, all the way up to red. Okay? So that I have that going on through here. And this time what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to start going backwards with the mask, so it kind of starts shrinking the red. So I'm doing this so we just have a visual cue. I can kind of see what's happening here. All right. And then now all I got to do is turn this to white. Right. And then now you've got that middle portion of the lightsaber. And then obviously you can also blur this a little bit. Just add a little bit of blurring to that as well. Right. And then now all I did for the fourth one is I took this blur, this second blur, copied it, and then pasted it, right? And then that way everything's kind of getting a blur. And then this is how I would, inside of ZBrush, do something like a lightsaber. That's kind of got a glowingness to it. Okay, so it's just all built on the render system and then just using the filters, really. The whole thing is on a filter, okay? For Windery Snowman, because we're not using the same system we normally do for streams, it's not going to go to all the platforms. You're not going to see what people are asking on YouTube if you're on Twitch and vice versa, or Facebook for this system, because it's only spreading out. It's a different system that we use for this. Okay. So you can't read what's in here, is what you're saying? So here we can, let me go, I'll go full screen. Okay. And we'll get rid of me. Okay. So what, as far as the settings go again, okay, so I'm going to render out. Okay. So again, filter 1, okay, is an Orton. And then you can make this go wider or less. Right? You can control how much of that is coming off. Right? So this is just, again, here, I'll turn on the magnifier too for you. Here, I'm going to adjust the magnifier a little bit here real quick. So let's go to a magnifier, magnifying glass. Let's make it really big. Let's have no curvature. Let's get rid of the shadow. And have no fade, and we'll zoom out something like, let's go 1.5 instead. Okay. So then over here, again, filter 1 is an Orton. This is up to you. How much of an Orton do you want coming off of this, right? And then all I did is down here, I picked the color. I just click and dragged it over, and I told I want that hue chosen. That's it. And then the second thing I did is I'm asking a mask border. So I'm spreading out that Orton more, in essence. And then I'm throwing another blur on top of that. Okay? And then number 2, once again, it's a blur. So I can start blurring things. And that's doing the same thing. I'm picking the exact same color, hue, playing with my mask border and this. And then I'm also changing my radius. Right? So you can change your radius. There'll be more of a blur. So if you go all the way down, see, there's not much of a blur. So you want to have a little bit of blur in there, right? So I'm changing that radius. And number 2, number 3 is paint, because I want that middle part to be really hot and white. So I'm just going paint, right? I got a white color. I'm at 100%. And then I'm just using it once again. I'm doing a mask border, but going the opposite direction. I'm going negative. Okay. And then same thing on the bottom, picking the color and the hue. And then that's it. And then all I'm doing for 4 is I took what was in 2 and copied it to 4, right? That's it. That's all I did. I took filter 2, copied, went into filter 2, paste, right? So 4, I can even play with more blurring if I want to, right? If you want to maybe cut it back. I like having a little bit of blur in there, right? So this is just a really fast, quick way I've seen it. And I do this kind of thing also with my mechs, my hard surface stuff. Okay? All right, there you go. All right, I want to go back to, no, not that one, that one. All right? So the theme this year is Reimagine. That's the theme this year. So you got to take a character that you may have known, and what would you have done if I gave you the task of making an original character that maybe we all know or are comfortable with, right? So, and obviously your goal is to not replicate that character, but put a different spin on that character and put little things that we would maybe recognize as, oh, that's that character in particular. Like I said, when you weren't here, I said like Astro Boy. What if Astro Boy wasn't a robot mech boy, but a teenager, right? That has a suit that turns into like a jetpack on the back, and then like got a helmet or something that has maybe that little hair thing, so we can spend. Oh, that's like an Astro Boy, right? So your goal is to have just a little bit of the main characters, whether it be their color scheme, but try and get away from that and think about what would you have done for that original character. There's no limit to number of subtools. You go as crazy as whatever you want. How many subtools you want. There's no limits to any of that. Your only limitation is you can only use ZBrush, and you cannot use anything. You can't pre-make models ahead of time. You can't import anything. You can't pre-make models. You cannot use any imported IMM brushes, insert multi-mesh brushes. You can only use the ones that ship with ZBrush. You must start with something that ships with ZBrush, okay? You can use a custom UI. You can use your custom hotkeys. You can use other brushes as long as they're not changing topology, okay? And you can use other macros and plugins as long as they don't change the topology or edit the topology in some way, okay? Hold on. Is it bad to start using predetermined human models to make 3D characters, or should I start with? I would say if you're going to make a humanoid character, especially for a Sculpt-Off, just start with something that ships with ZBrush. That's where I'm going to go to next, because we had another question coming. Okay, before I move on, does everyone got this? This how to make something like a little bit glowy like inside of ZBrush with the renderer? Okay. Easy Remesher can't be used. No, you can't use Easy Remesher. It's affecting your topology. Can't use it. I don't know real-time hair. And Extractor Pro Plus can't use it. It's making new topology. Can't use it. I don't know real-time hair. I'd have to see it. If it's making topology, you can't use it, period. Okay? You can use Z-Remesher, but there's a plugin somebody made, Rodolfo, that they made in essence. They're using Z-Remesher to do retopologizing, and it's called Easy Remesher. They're using what's built inside of ZBrush. So in essence, what he's doing in the plugin, you can actually do inside of ZBrush as well. But you can't use that plugin because it's changing your topology. But you can use the Z-Remesher inside of ZBrush. Okay? No pre-making height maps. No. Can't pre-make height maps. No. Okay. So everyone's got this, I'm assuming now, this rendering thing, glowing thing. Okay, so I want to move on, Rodolfo, to one of your questions about clothing, especially in a posed character. How can you make some quick ways to make clothing? First, I just want to show you quick ways to make even some clothing in general, regardless, okay? And I want to take advantage of some features here, okay? Yeah, as long as you have a vanilla ZBrush, you're fine. If you're using a vanilla ZBrush, you're good to go. Okay. Okay, I'm glad that little thing for the filtering helped you out. Okay, so I'm going to load a project that ships with ZBrush, right? And this is where I would maybe start the Sculpt-Off. If I'm going to do a female character, I'd probably load this. If I'm doing a male character, I'd probably load this. Or I would load the other one from Nick Zuccarello, right? That's in here. Load this one as well would be one to start with. Okay? There's a ton of stuff here we can start with now. I'm gonna start with just this female character. So I'm going to double click that and load her. And I want to make like a shirt for her, okay? So looking at this, okay, I want to start saying, what's the fastest way for you to make a shirt? So there is more than one way to do this, okay? There's going to be a lot of different ways to do this for sure, okay? But I want to show something that I don't know if some of you might be aware of, and it just shows another feature that I just like using anyway, so this is kind of for me as well. So I'm going to use Spotlight. Okay, so Spotlight has a great way for you all to make some kind of clothing real fast. Okay, besides many other things that you can make in Spotlight. Okay. Oh, Chase, you're in Jamaica right now? How are you? I got married in Jamaica. Love it. Hope all is well for you. Okay. Show the best way to sculpt realistic folds. Yeah, I would say do real photorealistic folds. You're gonna sculpt. I would sculpt them. I'm gonna go into dynamics, and I'll show you some things for dynamics for sure. And you can use the brushes with dynamics, but also it's gonna come down to you're gonna need to sculpt some of that. Okay. So I'm gonna load one of these in here, right? So any of these two right here that you see are some clothing. So if you double click, right, you'll get a bunch of little thumbnails in essence of like things that look like an outline of clothing, right? So I'm going to hit the Z key, okay, which is in essence edit spotlight, right? So this is found in transform. Okay, so you can see right here there's edit spotlight. Okay, and you got to understand there's two modes of spotlight. There's the edit mode, which we're in right now. I'm editing the images in essence, okay? And when you're in this mode, it's the projection mode. Like I want to use an image to project color or sculptural information on it, okay? And what I want to do is I want to start using one of these images and make like a t-shirt for her, okay? So I'm going to hit the Z key because I want to edit the images. I want to be able to click on an image, a specific image, okay, and move it into location, all right? So I'm going to grab this t-shirt image right here. So you can see once you just click on it, you're able to move it around. Excuse me, I'm going to take a swig of water real quick, okay? What's up, Turbo Grappler? Okay, so I obviously need this sized up. So I'm going to size up this shirt, okay? And then anywhere I click with inside of this area, that allows me to move the shirt around, okay? If I click inside of this area, that's moving this. And this is important to understand the two differences between this, okay? Because I'm going to want to use this ability to snap to things. Okay, so i.e. if I click in the middle of anywhere inside of this circle right here, okay, is everything fine or do you guys need me to go full screen ZBrush? Okay. So if, again, I'm looking to use this circle right in here, right? So I'm clicking and then you can see I can snap to even this to parts of the image. So it's important because I want to snap it to the middle of the image. And then what I want to do, I want to use this snapping ability with the model. So ZBrush also sees the model, okay? And you can see I can snap to the model here, right? And you can go all the way see snapping to the middle, right? So if you want to, you can come out of perspective mode, right? So that way I'm looking straight at her, okay? And you can see I can snap, mid, that's in the middle, okay? And here's the middle top, right? Up here on the top, okay? And then up here. Now, when you start doing like this, you see how the image is moving? It's because the dial now is being in the safe zone, right? So if you don't want to be in the safe zone, you want to move your model. So I'm going to snap to the middle. So first of all, I'm going to make sure, again, I'm snapped here in the middle, snapping there in the middle. So I know this is sitting in the middle of the model now. And so now I'm going to move this, but I'm going to hold the shift key. So it stays along that green line. So the only thing I can do is vertically move this shirt up and down. I'm going to put it right about there, okay? And then I'm going to just start sizing it up. And I want to make it bigger than her body, okay? So that's all I'm trying to do right now is just make it a little bit bigger than her body. Now, one thing you guys would want to also be aware of, okay? It's okay that this image is really this big, like on her shoulder. She's in the 80s again. She's going back to the 80s. She's got those puffy shoulders. Here they are, okay? So something also that you can do that's nice with Spotlight is you can come over here. There's all these things. So one of the things you have is nudge, okay? So if you have a brush selected like I do, the standard brush, okay, and I got a brush size, you can actually see nudge around the image if you want to, okay? And then the amount that's being nudged is solely based upon the brush size, right? So if you go smaller in brush size, then you're going to nudge less. What some people also are not aware of for this is when you're in the nudge mode, the image itself actually has subdivision. It has 4 subdivision levels. So you can actually walk down, which I just did, and so you can move things faster. Right? In essence, you can have bigger movement here. Right? And then I can walk back up. So I'm hitting the D key, D key, D key, D key to be back up. So when you are in this nudge mode, okay, and I'll show you guys after this how much the nudge can help you guys, okay? I'm just showing this because this could help you maybe line the image up a little bit more. And again, don't get too consumed with this because we're going to use dynamics to help us out here, right? So you can just move the image where you want, get it like in general area where you want it, okay? And now what I want to tell ZBrush to do is I want to use this image to create this piece of article of clothing, okay? That's what I want to be done, okay? So all I have to do is use this camera. But something else maybe that you guys are not aware of, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and just, let's make one. I'm going to tap, okay? So when I tap, right, this is what it does. So I hit Shift Z to turn off spotlight. So Shift Z turns it on and off, okay? And what this has done, you can see it made a piece of topology. And not only that, it made a new subtool, which is this shirt. So as we're moving around, you can see we've got a shirt here. Okay? Now, this shirt is going to have multiple polygroups. Okay? So there is a polygroup here, right? So in essence, the front of the shirt, which means there's one in the back. Okay? There's a polygroup in the middle. Okay? But there's more than one polygroup in the middle, right? So you can see there's another blue right here. That is in essence the edges of where the shirt is. Okay? And then there's a polygroup here. See? And there. Okay? We're doing this on purpose. Okay? To help us. Okay? So this is that shirt. Let's turn that off. Okay? And before I actually continue on, you can see the width of this shirt, right? Let's turn on transparency, is set by the model. Okay, so what ZBrush is going to do, because we were looking straight at her right from the front, it's making this shirt based upon the vertex point that's the closest to the camera in essence, and the vertex point that is the furthest from the camera, which in this case is her calf, right? So the shirt's width was being put on based upon her body because that is actually the mesh I had selected, okay? So let's remake this shirt, but I'm going to add one more thing to this, okay? And I'm going to show you in a second here why I would do this if I'm going to use this to make an article of clothing, okay? Minecraft shirt, love it. Okay, so again, I'm just going to position her somewhere. I'm going to hit Shift-Z to turn this back on. Again, that turns it on and off. You can actually find that in the texture palette. So you can see right here, on and off. So all the spotlight items live here except for one button, which is the transform edit button. Okay, because this is where all the stuff that you can edit lives in. In essence, the 3D edit button lives here. Okay, but everything else is living right here. So on, off, okay? And I'm just using the shortcuts. So I'm going to hit the Z key, okay? And it's in the middle, so let's reposition this to be right there, okay? So let's go right about there. And then I'm going to, once again, I am going to move it down, and then let's size it up a lot more. Now I'll just reposition this a little bit more. And again, it's okay for you guys to make this shirt like really large in this case. It's not going to really matter that much because I'm going to be using dynamics to help me here. Okay? And now this time, instead of just pressing that little camera down here, I'm going to press and rotate. Okay, so I'm going to rotate about halfway and then let go. Okay, so I'm going to turn off Spotlight because I'm done with Spotlight now. Okay, what we have is another subtool that's another shirt, right? And they're not really too different, right? If we bounce between them, there's really not a big difference between them. So why am I showing you this? There is a big difference, okay? You can see this particular shirt, if you look through here, there's just big, long polygons. Because this is nice for if you're making stuff, especially if you're doing hard surface, you can say I can resize this, and I'm not overlapping any topology. Whereas the new one I made has spans of topology, right? So if I was doing this, right, you're starting to squish topology. However, for what I'm trying to do right now, I actually want more rows of topology through here, okay? Because I know my next step is going to be coming down the pipeline is using dynamics. So I want to have more topology in this area because I'm going to want this to start conforming to her body, right? And in this particular shirt, because I have no topology spans here, it's not going to conform to her body. So this is really important, people, to understand. Really important to understand Lisa needs braces. If you're going to use this technique to make some kind of article of clothing, don't do this one, do this one. Okay? It's very important that you do that. Right? Is anybody lost in this? Do you need me to repeat this so you have a complete understanding of this while I take a swig of water? Look, I am just a marketing board right now. Logos everywhere. Should just put tattoo on my face. Okay? Yes, grappler. Yes. So the same shortcuts you use for subdivisions, right? D and Shift D. Shift D walks down, the letter D walks up. So when you're in Spotlight and you're using that nudge feature, Lucky D, I'll come back to you. Let me just get through this one and I'll come back to you. Okay? So when you're in Spotlight and you're going into this nudge, yeah, if you're using, I use the shortcuts, right? Shift D to walk down and then D. Right? And then when you want to turn this off, you just click this to turn it off. Okay? Cool. All right, I'm about to lose control. I think I like it. Yeah, 80s, baby. Okay? And then, of course, you could box model this. And in fact, there's an easy way to do that, right? You can use the extruder to do that if you wanted to as well. Okay? So, let me then finish this one, right? So now that I have this, okay, these polygroups that are made are really important. And the reason why these polygroups are being made is because this image has a red border where there should be a hole for a shirt, right? We got to have a hole here to get our heads in, and then our waist in, and then obviously for our arms. So if you paint with pure white, we're going to make whatever's pure white and any other color as well. We're going to make that actual mesh. However, because there's red, you're telling ZBrush, hey, this, wherever it's red, give it new polygroups. Get it a different polygroup than what's painted white. So in essence, if I just added like a purple and greens and reds, every color is going to have a new polygroup when you actually go to make the mesh. Why do I care? Because watch this. This is what I'm going to do next. Okay? I'm going to say this particular shirt's got polygrouping, right? So just like someone said, it's not pretty, right? It's Minecrafting. So I'm going to solve that really fast. Okay, so I'm going to come here to my deformation. I'm just going to do a polish by groups, right? And now you can see clearly what that's doing right in there, right? It's making a nice, clean result right there, right? So when I look at just this polygroup, you can see I'm see a nicer result right through there. Okay, so that would be the first thing I do. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the polygroups that in essence are covering the holes that I need for garment. Okay, in this case, a t-shirt. So then I'm just going to inverse that. Okay, and then you can see I've got holes where I need them. We don't need that topology anymore. Okay, and by the way, I can select 2 polygroups at a time, right? So you can see this is one polygroup. Okay. And then this is a completely different polygroup, right? So if I click on any vertex point along where the 2 polygroups are sharing, I'll select both. So I'm going to hold down Control-Shift, tap on that vertex point, and because we painted red at all the parts that are important to us to have where there needs to be a hole, those are all sharing the exact same polygroups, right? So it makes it an easy way for me to show these and then reverse it. And then now, of course, I'm just going to delete hidden. Right? And then this particular one, there's creasing. So I'm just going to uncrease all. So we just have this. Okay, so now what we have here is this wonderful boxy shirt. This looks like a cardboard. It's a Halloween cardboard cut out. Okay, and then now this is where I want to start using dynamics just to help me a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to go through here and come into here, right? And I want to start using dynamics through here. Okay, so this is set. Let me put stuff back to the defaults because there's some things that I've been messing with this. Okay, so, and by default, you guys are going to have that on. Let's see, I don't think I messed with anything else. Oh, I messed with this. Okay. All right. So this is what you're going to have by default when you're looking at your dynamics. Okay. So I want this shirt to, in essence, start kind of conforming a little bit to the body is what I'm looking for. All right. So I want to use that. I don't want the shirt to like fall down to the body. I want it to start conforming because right now it's a big cardboard cutout of a t-shirt. Okay, so I'm going to turn off actually gravity. I don't even want it. Okay, and what I'm going to turn on is deflate. I want to deflate this a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is say, okay, I've got a shirt, right? And in essence, right now what we have are 3 subtools. Okay, and the only subtools that I want visible is this and this. So we can delete this now because we don't need this anymore. We don't even need it. All right. And I'm going to rename this shirt. Okay. And so, excuse me, the mesh that I want to have affected by other subtools is the one I want to have selected. So in this case, I want the shirt selected because I want it to start conforming to the body. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is tell it to evaluate the collision volume. Right. And what ZBrush is going to do is say, okay, I see you got a selected subtool. And I see all other subtools that are turned on right now. I'm going to go and make those, in essence, the volume that will conform the mesh to, right? So in this case, it's a t-shirt. Since it's a t-shirt, I don't want a lot of inflation. So this slider right here, when we're going to start conforming things, this is going to control how far off. So here, I'm going to switch. Oh, full camera, baby. So let's say this is her body, right? And then this is the shirt. Okay, well, when you start conforming this, the inflate's going to control how close can the shirt get to the body, right? So by default, the inflate's at 1. So what's going to happen is if I keep that at 1, the shirt will never go any closer than, say, this. There's always going to be an inflate a little bit around the surface. Okay, so if I drop that inflate slider, then I'm going to allow the shirt to get closer and closer and closer. Okay, so because I'm making a garment and a t-shirt, that just makes sense to me, right? I probably want to not have this inflate higher. So I'm going to drop this way down to like 0.1. Okay, and when you adjust any sliders in here, ZBrush is going to recalculate the surface again. Okay, so when I hit that inflate, it went back and recalculated again. So it knew, hey, that inflation, you're making it less. Okay, this is important, especially for something like cloth and garments. Okay, I'm going to throw on here also a little self-collision. I'm just going to put it at 1. Okay, just so we can have some collision. And then that's really it. Okay, and then I'm just going to hit run simulation, right? And start manipulating and playing with this. Okay, and start looking at how I want this to start conforming to her, right? So you have things like deflate, inflate, right? So you can start expanding it out, right? And now this is inflating, okay? Then you have things, and we're going to start using things like contract, which in this case, I like to contract what's happening here. It's starting to contract to her body, okay? Now, this is where I'm going to start doing some other things and some other stuff that's going on. So see all this in here, okay? I don't want to use this surface anymore. So I built the surface from that image that we have in through here, right? And so now what I want to do is, okay, instead of using this surface and sitting here and trying to do this kind of stuff, I'm just going to tell ZBrush, I want a little bit of a contraction happening, okay? Then I'm going to come down here and say, let's just go ahead and remesh this. Okay, so I'm going to do symmetry. I'm going to do a symmetrical remesh. Okay, and I'm going to stick with the defaults. That's fine for me. Okay, and then now I've got a remesh surface. Okay, And then this time, okay, this contraction, I'm going to go from here, and I'm going to turn this off so you guys can see it. And then over here, okay, you've got to contract. Okay, but you have along what axis? I'm going to actually turn off the X and the Y and only have the Z on. Okay, and then start running this. And you can see that shirt is conforming to her body more and more and more and more and more and more. Right? To the point where now you can start doing stuff like this. Okay? And then now I could start smoothing this up, right? However I want. Okay? And I probably will clean up these edges out here. Okay? So one thing that I probably would start to do then too with this, okay, to clean these edges out, is switch to my different smoothing brush. Okay? So instead of using a regular smooth, I'm going to use the smooth cloth. Okay? And then that way I can even readjust the garment a little bit, really push this back a little bit more, right? And start manipulating this and say, I want the shirt to sit a little bit higher on her, right? And then now I've got a shirt that's a lot more in a better position for me to just quickly now manipulate a little bit more. So, and then this is where you're going to start using other brushes, okay? So instead of just grabbing something like this, the move brush, and then just start moving this around, right? And things like this, okay? This is where it'd be beneficial to not just do this, but switch to actually cloth brushes, okay? Because then this is going to appreciate the dynamics that's built within inside a ZBrush, okay? So any one of these cloth brushes are going to help you move things around, all right? So some of them are pretty strong. So like there's a cloth move. And so when I'm moving this, see, it's going to not allow the surface to puncture into her, okay? And now what I want to do is, okay, this is, you got to remember, right now I'm manipulating, what I'm manipulating is just a plane, right? That's all it is. Obviously, cloth needs to have some thickness to it, right? And so this is where I would start to look at this and go, okay, if we're dealing with a plane right now, all right, why not add some thickness to this? And look, she needs, that armpit needs to come up a lot more. There you go. Okay, and you see I'm just quickly conforming and changing this. Change your brush size to do a little bit more to it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn on dynamic subdiv. I'm going to come in here, turn on dynamic subdiv. Okay, that immediately is going to add some smoothing to it right out the gate. Okay, so I got a smoothing of 2. And then I can add some thickness now, because the shirt should have some thickness. All right, and then there's some thickness for you in there. Okay, so I can see this. And then do I want that thickness to come off? So in essence, where the plane is sitting out, or then go and do the opposite. This is going now all in, and then at 0, it's 50-50. Okay, so I'm going to say I'm going to keep it off her body and then add a little bit of some thickness in here. So now at least while I am adjusting this, I am looking at now at least a thicker t-shirt for this, right? And then this is how I start going at that. And then you guys can keep editing this however you want and doing whatever you want with this. You can edit the topology, switch back to again, right? A move. The snake hook's really strong. It's going to do a lot with your mesh, right? Okay, so these brushes then are going to give you this ability. Okay, but I think it's key to switch your smoothing brush to the cloth one. Okay, and then now you can just switch to other brushes again, make some changes, some adjustments. Maybe if you wanted to turn it into more of a higher sleeved shirt, change, you know, her neckline. All this is possible. But you got to remember where we started from, right? We started from cardboard cutout t-shirt in essence. Right? So there you go. This is how we can quickly make a nice little garment that can be on a model, just starting from an image. Okay? So as far as the Sculpt-Off goes, you guys can only use these. But as far as you guys go as a ZBrush artist, there's nothing stopping you from going into any application, i.e. like a Photoshop, and what you want to do is make a black, pure black background, 100% black ground, okay? And then whatever clothing you want needs to be all white, okay? And if you want to do what we're doing in all these, you put red, okay, where you're going to want different polygroups so you can make sure you can open up those points, right? So then, and this is how easy it is. If I want now this dress instead of this shirt, right, I can turn off the shirt, go back to her, okay, put this dress where I want it. Okay, I'm going to center it there. It's a massive dress now, right? And again, click the camera and then go through the motion of going and adding some topology there, right? And then you can see you got a nice dress here, okay? And then once again, I like to smooth out this surface a little bit, right? So I am going to, again, polish by groups and then get rid of these groups that are making, in essence, I need a hole in the bottom and a hole in the top for a dress like this. Okay? And then now this is it. This is all you got to do, right? And then modify, delete hidden. And then you guys can even just switch to a gizmo if you wanted to, right? There's a gizmo cloth brush, right? And you can even just start playing with this gizmo to start getting a little bit of the shape like this, right? Something like this. So obviously this is where I'd also want to make a hole right here, right? For her arm to go through, okay? And I would say the goal would be here, just get something that's a little bit more conformed, okay? And then I found if I just polish it off a little bit, then now this is where I would remesh it, okay? And it's better to use some topology from the Z-remesher because then you got a little bit, you got equally distributed polygons in this sense, right? And then you can still polish that out and then still even remesh it again, right? And then once again, you can recalculate your volume and now you run your simulator and see now this is starting to conform. It's only going one direction right now. It's only conforming this way to her body, right? So you just run it as long as you want it, okay? And then tap on the surface if you're done. And then now it's just smoothing things out that you want smoothed out. And then now you just start manipulating and moving this a little bit more where you want it. Right? There you go. Easy way to quickly start making some garment for you. It's a beautiful dress. Just gorgeous. Right? And then there's nothing stopping you. It's like, oh, I want the dress to be that. Right? And then you can start eliminating things if you want to after the fact. Okay? But it's about getting a quick result as possible. So Rodolfo is asking, doing that in a posed character, right? So if I already have a character posed, i.e. something like this guy, right? Because he's in a pose, right? Just think of this same concept that we've been talking about here, okay? I'm going to turn off some rendering things that are on. We don't need any of that on. Okay, so if we're looking at just him, right? You got to look at, number one, do I have any polygrouping to help me out? Which I do, right? I've got his body here to help me out, okay? And I've got topology flow here. So the first thing I'm going to probably try to do is see, okay, how about, what do I have here right now? I have a red polygroup that makes up the most of his body, okay? So I'm going to take advantage of this for me, okay? Yes, this is for tips for the Sculpt-Off. Yep, quick ways to do things, but obviously these are just tips and tricks for all of you, really, right? So now, using that method that I'm talking about, an opposable character, is it's the same concept, people, okay? I'm not going to go veer off really far here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate him, all right? And now I'm going to look at, right, just this one. So we're looking at just that one. Okay, we walk down in subdivision levels. This is how low he can go. I'm going to go up, I think I'm going to go up at least one. I'll go up one more. Here, I'm going to go up that high. Okay, so then now I'm going to delete these subdivision levels. Okay, and I want to make some kind of shirt for him. And he's in a pose like this, a shirt. Okay, so the only thing I need right now is this body. I don't need anything else. Okay, so I'm going to delete hidden. Okay, and then I'm going to use the lasso. Okay, and I'm going to start looking at this and go, okay, I want a shirt to go from there to there. Okay, so this is giving me a lasso around the arm. Okay. And let's make it be funny t-shirt. Okay. That's like this going around his body. Okay. Now I'm just going to come here. Okay. And go to polygroups. I'm going to auto group. Okay. What that does is everything that's its own shell gets its own polygroup. And because the arms are no longer connected to the upper body and the lower torso is no longer connected there, that top part gets blue. So now I'm just going to click the blue part, right? Here's all I care about. So we're going to delete hidden the rest. Okay. And so now this is what I have. Okay. And so from here, you guys could go to the route, honestly, just turning dynamic subdiv on, right? And then give it some thickness. And you've got a shirt, right? And obviously, I'm going to repaint this, right? And then this has got starting to have a shirt that's conforming to, and it obviously conformed perfectly to the body, okay? But we're going to use dynamics to, to change that. It's just using the same exact workflow. Now, something else you can do instead of doing this with dynamics, right? You can kind of, I'll divide up so I've got some mesh, okay? And what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to mask off everything. And then now I'm going to tell ZBrush, okay, I want to unmask portions, right? So now I'm going to just paint where I don't want a shirt to be, in essence, right? Because obviously in this case, I don't want the shirt to go around all the way up his neck like this. I want to have a line here for the shirt. So I'm just unmasking this right now. Right, and of course you could do the opposite, right? You guys could just mask this area and do the opposite, right? So mask the area that you don't want shirt, okay? Quickly look at this really quick there and come through here, okay? And then unmask that and then inverse it, right? And then this is now the area that's important to me. So I can sharpen that up, okay? And then Control-Shift-E, okay? And I still have subdivision levels, so I'm going to delete them. Control-Shift-E, okay? And that's going to slice based upon the mask, right? So you guys see that? So I'm getting two polygroups now, right? We started with red, right? Control-Shift-E, and then that's what happens. Undo again, Control-Shift-E, and that's what happens. E as in Edward, okay? And where that is living is in edge loops. I'm doing this right here. So Control-Shift-E is clicking on that edge loop masked border. So it's looking at the mask, and we're literally slicing based upon the mask and creating a new polygroup on the unmasked areas. So what this does for me is I only need the blue part right now. We don't need the lasso anymore. So I only need this. This is all I care about in essence. This stuff right here. And then I delete hidden. Okay. This is probably where I'd also recommend turning on double so you can see. See, I got another little snippet there. Okay. So I need to delete all that stuff. So I'm just going to do an auto group. I only want that. Okay. And then delete hidden. And then now this is ready to go for sure, but this is pretty dense right now. So now I'm just going to Z-remesh it. And in fact, I'm going to knock this way down. I'm going to knock this down to like 1000 and remesh it. Okay, because actually it's going to be better for me to be a little bit lower so that the clothing will be a little bit more baggy in essence. It's that, so like wearing a tight shirt, right? And then I'm just making new topology for me based upon this chopping up. And then see, you got to find the right amount. Like this is pretty low, okay? So I would probably not go this low. I would go probably a little bit more, maybe try 3000 and remesh that. In this case, 5000 might be good, but I would tell you, I'd probably definitely remesh this. This is too dense to go and use dynamics on it. Okay, I wouldn't use dynamics on something like this. But then again, this shirt's already sitting in the right spot where you want it, right? Because it's unopposed character. Okay, so it's just an easy way to take the existing character and work with it. Okay, now, this is one way to do that. Now, let me go back to him. Let me reload and come back to him. Now, we have a character here, right? if you notice, symmetry is lining up. Okay? So if I was competing, all right, and if I was in the Sculpt-Off, the one thing that I would make sure before I pose, okay, this is a Lisa Needs Braces, look up here moment combined, okay? I would 100% make sure my topology is also symmetrical, okay? So if you're using, say, something like Dynamesh and you're going to do a lot, I would make sure when you're done with Dynamesh, ZRemesh it symmetrically. And then when you pose it, this is going to now allow you guys to use posable symmetry. Okay, so in the transform, there is posable symmetry. So you see it's already on for this guy. Okay, and the reason being, the benefit to this, instead of doing the duplicating thing and all the stuff that I was saying that I did, you could also just quite simply just start masking right on this guy, right? And then you can see this is symmetrically masking. So whatever I do, right, to the one side, it's happening automatically on the other side. Even though this guy's already posed, it's happening for me. It's happening. Oh my God, it's happening. Right? So this is just another idea and thought process for you guys, right? Because then maybe you prefer this so you can visually see really what you're masking out and how is it already going to sit on, in this case, this guy, right? So you're just doing a quick mask. Yes, give him a nice long V-neck. Why not? Yes, yes, right? And then now you're just masking out the rest of this, okay? And now this is parts where this guy in particular, he's got a lot of overlapping geometry inside the arm portion, right? So you're going to probably want to use some other masking features other than just using this, okay? You're going to want to use mask lasso or mask curve, right? So you can make sure you're getting everything masked out that you want to mask out, right? So doing something like this, switching to mask lasso, and then just lassoing out the inside of that area, make sure that's masked. And then see, this is important. Symmetry's on, so I'm going to turn symmetry off now. Make sure that's all masked inside there. Make sure all that's masked inside there, right? And then you guys can sharpen up the mask again, blur the mask. Okay, and then maybe this is where you want to use an old school technique. Use extract instead, and then just extract the clothing, right? And right now this is, hold on, this is showing everything. So let me turn everything on, just him. So when I do an extract, right there, there's a shirt. Okay, but let's think about this. You can still use these other techniques that I've been talking about. Okay, there's no reason why you can't now do in essence a little bit even hybrid, right? So this has got already a thickness to it. It's got some smoothness to it. When I accept this, it's automatically making this shirt, right? And it's automatically making this for us, right? Okay. And then this is already masked off, but then there's also polygroups being generated and made through here, right? So we can take advantages of this for sure. Okay. And you can either just get rid of, right, all the inner stuff, right? So really the only thing that's important to you is the red, and in this case, that part, right? So Control W that, and then now you just got paper thin again, right? You just used extract, right, to create the garment that already now has a gap between it because I've gotten rid of the thick, see? But then people, let's use this. Like, don't hesitate to use this to our benefit, right? So what I mean by that is I'm going to make sure all this has got its own polygroup. Okay. So here, I'll turn on display. Hold on one sec so you guys can visually get it better. Okay. And then flip it and then make sure this is a polygroup, right? So I've got now, this is a polygroup. This is a polygroup, right? And then all the outer parts that make up, on essence, the sleeves is a polygroup, right? So you guys can definitely go ahead and remesh this as well, right? So you can maybe divide this up once, right? Okay, and then come to ZRemesher, and then use this groups option. And I don't need this, so I would turn this down. Okay, so I'd be turning that down, and then hit ZRemesh. right? And then now that's also going to keep the polygroups, but now what else am I going to get? I'm going to get different topology that might be beneficial for me. And this is where you definitely want to make sure you have self-collision on in your dynamics if you're going to use this, okay? So in essence, this is just a hybrid of ways to do this, right? So you guys can do what I did previously, just reuse the model. And then this is in essence reusing the model, but using extract. And then I can hybrid off this and go with what I originally started with this, right? With this, with the spotlight. Okay. So hopefully that helps you and can make it go. No, Daisuke, who streams usually on Thursdays, is also with Pixologic. But of the streamers on this channel, it's just myself and Daisuke. Okay, so Rodolfo, you were asking that question, and someone else, ironically, also asked it in here. That should answer your cloth questions that you were asking about. And let's see, let me go back. Now, there was somebody asking a question before that. I don't know the bottles. I don't know what one. Hey, Troy. I don't know if you're still in here. Hi. Okay, here it is. Lucky. Lucky D. Quick question for Sculpt-Off. If we got a brush that makes basic shapes, spheres, tubes, rectangles, can we use that for Sculpt-Off? No. You can already, Lucky D, there's already a brush that has all those basic shapes. Okay. So inside of ZBrush, you're asking, can you use a brush that has the basic shapes? There's already a brush that has this. Sphericals and cubes. And then these are all low polygon. Right? So here we don't need the subdivisions. Okay, so looking at this, see, they're all low polygon. So you would need to use this one. Right? Okay, so there's this way for you to start with. Right, and so you can cycle through. And let's not forget now, everybody, if you're using the right and arrow keys, you can actually cycle through now. And because the gizmo's on, I'm swapping through the meshes. So Lucky D, to answer your question, no, because that's creating new topology. So since that brush already exists inside of ZBrush, you got to use this one. Okay, but you don't just have to do this. I don't know if you're even aware of the fact that you can come in here and you can make way more shapes and also get things through here too, right? So all these shapes are also available to you, okay? So like say this, right? This shape, if we move this out, okay, has also, see this flat sphere? I can move this wherever I want. I can do it on the other side as well. Okay, and then I can change my spans of topology, change my sans topology this way. Right, so, and then as long as you have this gizmo selected, see how it's orange? That allows me, I can get and say, I want to switch to maybe cylinder 3D, and then I can do that, I can do that, I can do this, right? Or maybe switch to the ring 3D, and then this one, you can also do a lot more with this. Okay, so you have the ability to taper, right? You have the ability to change in how big of, in essence, hole do you want in the middle of that torus. Okay, so that's what this white cone's doing. Okay, and then the blues and greens are going to deal with the topology. Okay, obviously in the X and the Y, different topology, right? So this is going to change the number of spans or less spans. So you can go all the way to a triangle if you want to. Okay, this is going to change, do you want it to actually continue around the whole loop of the torus? Okay, and then this one's going to change the topology, see? The other direction. And what's nice is I use this all the time. I'll go pretty low, say something like that, and then this will move the topology, like rotate it around. Right, so here we'll go with a couple more spans there. So you see it moves it around? So I do this all the time. I'll do stuff like this and say, okay, I want something more like that, right? And then I'll go back to the gizmo, hold down the control key, copy, right? And see now it's not orange because now I can't get back to that, right? But what I want is this. And then I want a spherical shape. And then now I got a spherical shape. Hit W key, right? And then do something like this, size it down, size it up, right? And this is just creating some kind of element here. And then hold control, duplicate the sphere, switch that to a cylinder. Now I've got a cylinder. Okay, I don't need as many spans this way. And then I'm going to shrink that down, and maybe that now sits here, right? So you got stuff like this. Like that's starting to look like maybe even like an eye of a hard surface piece, right? Something like that. Okay. So this is what I'd be using. I don't know if you're still here. Lucky D, are you still here? I don't know if you were still here or not. Okay, hold on. You had another question. I see another question coming through. What about posing the character in order to make it ready for posable symmetry? Do we remesh before we pose? Yes. Okay, so thank you for bringing me back to that. Okay, so as an example, okay, the demo soldier has perfect topology on both sides, right? So in essence, the topology is the same topology on this hand as in this hand, okay? And when you go to pose, all right, so let's say I want to pose this arm and do something, and I'm going to go really extreme with this, okay? And then by the way, when you guys are going to use this for posing, treat it as like a bone, right? If this arm was being raised, what's making that arm raise? Okay, first of all, muscles only pull. So it's actually not anything in the arm that's making your arm raise, right? It's in your chest and your torso over here, right? So your pectoralis brings your arms in, right? So you need something in your back to pull it out. Same thing here, the delts pulling up, right? So you want to treat this kind of also like a bone, a muscular system. That's the best thing I can tell you. So what I normally do is say, okay, the muscle should go from there to there, okay? And then now I'm going to treat this line as like the bone that the muscle is actually sitting on, something like that. Then I'm going to rotate and start rotating this, right? And where this sits becomes important. So if I move down this down to here, then we're rotating based upon that, see? Okay? Now I'm just going to stick a stream. So to this point, right, this mesh, you see symmetrically? See, so now if I want to start sculpting or making clothing or something like that, see, it's only happening on this palm. Or if I want to start masking out over here, let's go back to masking pen. I want to start making gloves for this, right? It's not happening over there, okay? Because this mesh is symmetrical, okay? The mesh itself is symmetrical. I can now go to transform. You see it says use posable symmetry, and I'll click this, and ZBrush will go, if it finds the full symmetry, it'll tell you up here. Symmetry, full symmetry found. So now because this mesh started that way, you can see now I can make the gloves for this, even though they're in different locations. Okay, so in the Sculpt-Off, what I would recommend is do whatever workflow you want to, okay, to get to the result you want with the character. All right, and then when you want to pose, I would recommend Z-remeshing while it's still in the T pose, A pose, whatever you like to use, with exact topology. So turn on your symmetry and then hit Z-remesh. The other thing that I would probably push you to, don't go really extreme with your pose. Okay, if you look at a lot of the past even winners, they didn't have some like crazy pose. Okay, but they had a pose that was like brought the character to life, right? The head's tilted a little bit, turn. There's a little shoulder movement. The arms aren't just sitting like this, right? There's maybe an arm sitting somewhere on the hip or on the belly, and then another arm's down, right? And you don't have to do a whole character, right? So it's up to you what you want to do, okay? So think about all that stuff that can save yourself some time in that 3 hours. Because don't forget, in that 3 hours, you not only have to sculpt, but you got to also, if you want to pose, you got to pose, and you got to render, and then you got to post the image. Everything must be done at 3:30. Like in essence, the image must be posted in the main thread of that we're using. Which again, here, let me get to it, so you guys again are aware of this, right? And again, all these links are in the rules, in the official rules as well, right? So this is going to be the thread that we're using. Okay, that you're going to go post your final image in. Okay, so There you go, right? So here, I'll put it in the chat as well. Going up, going up, going up, going up. Okay, there you go. All right. So Rodolfo, does that answer your question that you're coming through about the posing part? I got to catch up now because you guys, other people are asking questions too. Let me get back to what, because someone else was asking after you were asking that. I don't know why there's no bottles. Probably out of stock. Okay, so I gotta, can we, no importing of imagery, no importing of anything. Okay, that question comes, no importing of anything. That's part of the challenge. Okay, Lincoln, Lincoln, I'm assuming I answered your question. You were asking about, can I use that cloth method in the pose? I answered that question. I'm just catching up with your guys' questions. Sorry. Here it is. Sophie, you asked the question. When it's going, sometimes I lose tablet pressure and have to restart ZBrush to bring it back. Any ideas? That's something I would start with support. Sophie, I would make a support ticket. There's something going on then where the driver is being lost probably by Wacom. I don't know what driver you're using. I don't know what tablet you're using. So I'd say I start a conversation in our support.pixologic.com right now so that we can get assigned to a person. They can start doing maybe some troubleshooting before the Sculpt-Off. Now, what you can do, I don't know, Sophie, if you're on a Windows machine or a Mac machine, let me know if you're on a Windows or a Mac machine. Okay, so this is for everybody. One thing you know to make sure, number one, is in the preferences, make sure tablet here, if this is all grayed out, that means then ZBrush isn't seeing the tablet driver anymore. So something happened to the driver. It probably lost its service or something, right? And this is where you actually tell ZBrush to use a tablet. But if these are all grayed out, that means ZBrush can't see the driver. Okay, so either something in your system's blocked it or the driver itself, something weird happened. So I'd make sure you're maybe on the most recent driver, or in all honesty, sometimes depending on your systems and tablet you're using, I've found sometimes it's better to go back older drivers, depending on your system. Sometimes also. So I would look at this. The other thing that I would do, if you're in Windows, you can reset, instead of resetting ZBrush, reset the actual driver. Okay, so if I don't know if you're on Windows, it's easy on Windows. On Mac, I don't know on Mac. I'd have to go look it up where it is on the Mac side. Okay, so this is services inside of Windows. Okay, hold on, I just lost. Sophie, are you still here? Okay. Okay, you're on a Cintiq. Okay, so if you're in Windows, find the Wacom driver in here in this services and tell it to restart. Like restart the service. And I bet you that'll work. So the next time it happens, you just try this one first and then restart it. So right here, see, here's a Wacom and you can restart it right here. Okay, or you can stop it. And if you stop it, then you can start it back up again. Try that. See if that maybe also solves your problem. That's happening. That means the driver is being lost somehow. Okay, so this is just me just typing the word services in the search menu. Like in Windows down here at the bottom here, just type in services right here, okay? And then that'll open up and you can open that up. Okay, see if maybe start with that and see maybe just restart if it happens when it happens to you again, restart that and see if that solves that problem. But 100% start a support ticket. And so yes, Rodolfo, keep the symmetry the same across the x-axis. Absolutely, across that axis, yes. Well, adding a plane to the brush is fine, but do it during the competition, right? But a plane already exists. By the way, you can go right here. HM Primitives already has a plane right there, which is a single plane. So it's already in ZBrush. To answer your question, Didzis, I'm probably not pronouncing that correct at all. So there's a brush that already has a plane. Okay, and also, right, right? Let's not forget in here, there's also already a plane. And then these are wherever your gizmo is, right? That's where the object is. That's where the object is made, right? So if I move a gizmo here, and what's important to the ones that are in the gears, it's about the blue arrow. See that blue arrow? Wherever direction that blue arrow is facing, when you come and click in here and click on this, right? So here we'll delete the subdivision levels and click on this. See, it's facing that direction, right? So see the blue arrow is facing that direction, right? So if you kick the plane, see the plane, and then you can do this and do this. And you see how my demo soldier's gone now? He's kaput, right? If I want to keep him before doing this, just mask him off completely. Like completely mask him off so that when you go to grab one of these, he doesn't get deleted. So you guys can use insert mesh brushes, but technically you can just put your gizmo wherever you want. And let's not forget, people, you can hold the Alt key. Let me switch back to my pen, right? And I can say, oh, I want a plane right here for some armor piece that maybe I'm going to make on his shoulder real quick. Okay. Oh, man, hold on. I got to re-get my mind back to a Windows keyboard. Okay. Hold the Alt key and then just tap your gizmo right there, right? And see that blue arrow? This is why I'm bringing up the blue arrow. Okay, hold the Alt key and then just make that blue arrow where you want it. So 90 degrees that way. And then when I come here and click on the plane, see the plane's facing in the direction that I want. And then you can add and take away topology. Like for me, this is even better way of going at it. Right? And then conform this plane to the shoulder, use dynamics. Right? So give it some topology. Right? And then even just switch to one of your brushes, right? Switch to a groom brush, right? Right, so like, let's go to cloth, move, right? And then just start moving this into place, right? And then, so then this, make this its own subtool is what I would now do. I would split this off and then start making this, right? And in this case, the only thing I'd probably want to evaluate is that body, right? So now I would calculate my volume and I can start messing with this and have it conform at a low polygon route, right? Turn on dynamic. So while I'm watching this, like this kind of stuff. Okay, this would be something, and then now maybe I'd throw some gravity on this and run the simulation, whee, right? And this is where I'd probably drop my gravity way down. There. Or let's not forget, this is also where you can switch to your gizmo. Transpose that's the cloth, and then you can just now just click the arrow and boom, it's conformed, right? And then now that's going to be some kind of shoulder plate. So all I need now is I need some thickness to it, right? And then I want it to come off the shoulder a little bit, and then there you go. And then I'm going to make it softer, and then now just accept it. Boom. Off and running. All right, just another thought process. So since you brought up like the plane, okay. I sometimes lose my model inside the brush. They are out of my view. How can I recenter? Geometry position doesn't work. Florian. So we don't allow, well, ZBrush by default doesn't allow to go inside the surface. This is one of the reasons why we don't allow that. But if you hit the F key, it should reframe all visible subtools and then frame back. Okay, but when you're saying lose your brush, wherever your cursor is, the brush, it's going to show up because ZBrush is only seeing these vertex points. So I'm a little, can you expand upon your question a little bit for me? So if you're losing your models, that's the F key framing should do this. So one click of the F is going to frame all visible subtools. The second click of the F frames the selected subtool. So you can see I can go back and forth by hitting those frames. That should definitely work, hands down. Okay, and then as far as the brush, there's no way for the brush not to show up because it's got to be on top of a surface to show up. So if you can expand upon what you were saying, that way I can make sure I answer your question for you. Because you were saying sometimes I lose my models inside of ZBrush. They are out of my view. How can I recenter? And you said geometry positioning doesn't work. Okay. Hold on. Let me get now caught up. Okay, so monkey shy for the sorry for the question. Look, no question. Don't have to apologize. That's what I'm here for. That's what this stream is for, is answering you guys' questions. Can you use the active points of an object? I have arrived now that I hope it has not already been said in case. What do you mean, can you use the active points? For what specifically? What can you use for active points? Monkey shy, if you're still here, can you expand upon that? And Rodolfo, no, nothing can be imported. Monkey, are you still here? Monkey shy. Is it possible to set the active points of a new object? Okay, to set the active points. Are you referring to the primitives? Is that what you're referring to? Because there's initializability. That's the only way. There's no... If you're referring to a primitive, you can't just set, I want an active point number. You can do that when you decimate a model. You can set your active points that you want for a decimation, but you can't just for objects. You can't just say, hey, I want a plane, okay, that's 60 active points per se. But you can, by, like, I can grab this plane as an example, right? Okay, and then you can say, this has got a certain number of polygons, right? So when I scroll over it, right, this has got 1,024 polygons. So down here towards the bottom, there's an initialized state, and there's sliders here. So if I go like 8 polygons by 8 polygons, right, or 8, not polygons, 8 spans across, you can see that's giving now 49 polygons. So if you want a certain number of polygons, all these primitives have the ability to adjust, right? So this is 9 polygons. So if I wanted 9 polygons, this is what I would need to do, 4 by 4 by 4, right? And then that's the same thing for anything in here. You can set all this. So if you want a ring, right, that has a certain number of polygons, you come in here and say, I only want this to have 6 by 6. Right? And this is how I'll do stuff sometimes, especially if I'm trying to do like a chainmail or something like this. I might want this, or I might want to go, you know what? I want 8, right? So it's more of an octagonic shape. And so when I make this a mesh, I'm going to add one more thing to this. Let's go back to my regular transpose and do something like this, right? That I want this to sit like that, maybe. So this is, you can do number of points per se this way, but also that's, in essence, all these, oh my hand, all these are those primitives that I'm playing with. That's what those are. So that's what those cones are doing. I don't know if that's what you were looking for, monkey shy, but like just appending something or adding something, you can't just go change it and say, hey, I want this to be exact number of points. You can remesh something and tell it to have a certain number of points. Some of you might not be aware of this. Okay, the Z-remesher by default, right? When you're going to Z-remesher, that's what this slider is right here. This is, in essence, your number of polygons. Okay, so if we grab, here, let's grab something. Let's grab this demo head, right? And now I want to remesh this, and I put this, say, at 1, which is 1,000, right? So when I remesh this, the thing is, though, there's an algorithm kicking into place here that's trying to look at the model and evaluate it as well. And so it's not just going to give you 1,000 polygons. It's going to give me more because it's going to go, hey, you need more than 1,000 polygons to kind of stay with the head. So you see it's around 2,500. Okay? But I'm not sure if all of you even many know this, but something also you can do is within the gizmo, okay? You can click here. God, my pen is just brutal today. Okay, and then you can click in here. There's our remeshers. And see, there's a remesh by Z-remesher. So you guys can click this, right? So you can't have subdivision levels. Okay, remesh by remesher. And now you've got cones. Okay, so these cones are just symmetry along the X. Yes or no? So no, yes, no, yes. Symmetry along the Y. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, yes, no, no, yes. Okay, so I only want along the X. And then the white cone here is a polygon count. So here, let me make the model darker. Okay, so you see in the middle, see it says target polygon count? See it says 52? You can actually click on this and say, what is your target polygon count you want? Okay, and if you hold the shift key, you can go up in whole increments. And then when you let go, it remeshes, and it's trying to give you that polygon count with the Z remesher. Z-wrap is, I'm going to have to go with no on that one. Right? So there's also this, which, by the way, everybody, you have the same thing with Dynamesh. Right? So you can come in here and see this. This is actually a polygon count number for Dynamesh. So when I let go, see, I said 34,000. See, it's right around it. It can't be exact because you can't just, if you pick an arbitrary number, there's another parts of the algorithm that come into play, like Dynamesh, and it's got to evaluate the surface. Okay, this is Dynamesh. That's what this is. So Dynamesh, we ripped it out and made it an actual deformer. Same thing with Z-remesher, same with live booleans. These what these are. Remesh by Dynamesh, remesh by live booleans, and remesh by Z-remesher. So because now they're these two, this one and this one, we gave you a cone to actually put polygon count numbers. Okay, Make Believe TV. You got to make an account on ZBrush Central. So if you don't have an account on ZBrush Central, you got to have your own account, Make Believe TV, right? And then you go to there and then you post it. And then if you don't post there, then they can't judge you. Because what we're doing when the contest ends at like right after 3:30 on next Saturday, right? The 23rd, where we are taking all the images out from that topic. And we've got a system that the judges are going to see just only the images. So, and then they're judging based upon that. There's no need for tagging or anything. You just got to make sure you post in the thread, right? It's all over the contest rules and all over the pages, right? So if you just go again to thesummit.pixologic.com, okay? And you just go call for artists. It's in the rules multiple times. It's in your image submission, okay? It's even right here, right on the front page. So this is where you have an account, right? You come in here. This is where you can go to ZBrush Central, okay? And it's right here. Okay, so you got to make an account on ZBrush Central if you don't have one, and you're going to post your image in here. And then we have an ability to pull all those images out. Turbo Grappler, yes. QMesh primitives. So if you're going this route down here, you're using, now I have an initialize here. Yes, this is right now always going to be at 000. That's why we have these other things, right? In essence, all this in essence is in here. That's what these are. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. I don't use that QMesh initialize anymore. I use this more than anything now. It's the exact same thing. So instead of using that, you can use this. And then you can, again, put your gizmo anywhere you want, and that's how the mesh would fall into place. Okay? Okay, Make Believe, you're good to go now. When she started a new project with a sphere with that, from what I understood, she has created. Monkey Shy, I would need to see. It might be she just has a mesh that has an exact points. But I don't know. There's so many features in ZBrush. She might have been doing something specific that has, I'm not sure what she was doing. I would need to see the stream and see what she was using. She might just have a model that she always starts with the same number of active points. But from what you're asking me, there is no way in ZBrush, like, pull up something and go, give me 50 active points. There's nothing in ZBrush that really does that, except for the stuff that I've already shown you. Noah, yeah, SpongeBob's an iconic character, for sure, 100%. But I don't know how you're going to reimagine SpongeBob SquarePants. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. But it can't look like SpongeBob, right? In essence, it's got to have maybe, in that case, you would go, the character's all yellow, maybe in brown pants, right? What if it was more of a human character that was, and not a sponge, right? That's the point of this. Try and reimagine something. And it doesn't, it can be anything that you want. Hold on. Oh, yes, but we're in a system right now. This system that we're using, everybody, is what we're going to be using for all of the summit next weekend. So when you guys make a comment in YouTube, you're not going to see what's being commented in Twitch or anything else like that. The system doesn't do that. We're not using the same system that we use when we stream, just by ourselves. Okay? So that's why you guys aren't seeing the comments that people are making in other areas. Right? So the answer. Okay, so hold on. Catching up. What other questions you guys have? We're coming close to an end here. So I'm just catching up on any questions I may have not gotten. Okay, when you snap rotate on insert mesh brushes, sure, that's possible. Okay. So when you're going to insert mesh brush, okay, there's a couple things that you want to be aware of when you're going to do insert mesh brushes. Okay, so I'm just going to use, in fact, here, let's make a different insert mesh brush. Let's actually use an arrow. Okay, and I'm going to make it like this. Brush, create insert. I'm going to append it to the existing one. Okay, so now I got an arrow here, right? So when you guys go to insert, notice, see the arrow, how it's pointing, right? It's pointing based upon wherever I click, right? It's looking at that point that I clicked on the surface and making sure that it's following that point perfectly. Okay, so if I did this, say, on a cube, as an example, okay, no matter where I click, you see the arrows are pointing, right, in the direction. Here, we'll turn perspective off so you can see what I mean, right? See, the arrows are pointing in the direction of that vertex point that I clicked on. So if I click on that vertex point right there, see the arrows pointing in that direction, okay? Does that make sense? Right? So, and if I take a model like this, obviously all these points are facing different directions, okay? And so when I click, this is what's happening. Now, what you can actually do with insert mesh brushes is you can, in essence, tell ZBrush not to pay attention to that vertex point's normal, the direction it's going, and pay attention to this, the gizmo. And you'll notice when I turn on gizmo, that last point I drew out, you've got that blue arrow perfectly sitting where I need it to be so that I can do this if I want to, right? And I can scale along that direction if I want to, everything that I want to. Okay, if I reset this, right? So I'm holding the Alt key, and I'm clicking on this reset right here. Okay, so I'll turn on the magnifier. Holding the Alt unlocks the gizmo, and I'm hitting reset, right? So if this was something like this, right? Reset, boom, and reset this gizmo now to the world. Okay, that's being remembered. So now watch this. If you start drawing out, see that? I can tell it to actually go along the vertex point or find the closest world axis to snap to. Okay, so this is important since you're bringing up snapping, right? So you see I can make that arrow sit directly, perfectly along the y-axis right now. Okay, so what it means is you as a user, you can completely control this. I can make this be, 40 degrees, and when I'm drawing this out, that's now, see that arrow? That's 40 degrees. That's snapping in a 40-degree angle. And then the gizmo is going to keep that, right? So what that means is when you are drawing something out to your question, okay, when I'm drawing something out, I have this. When I do this, the gizmo is automatically sitting at the bottom, okay? And then when I'm moving this, like this, if I hold the shift key, we snap it every 5 degrees. So if I want to go 90 degrees this way or 90 degrees this way or 180 that way, this is how I would do it. I don't know if that's what you were looking for or what your question was really going towards, Monkey Shy 97. But hopefully that helps what you were asking. Okay, let me get back to where... ZWrap's a no because it's modifying the topology. Okay, so now I'm catching up. I'm just catching up in you guys' questions. Yeah, Twitch people, you're only going to see Twitch responses. YouTube people, you're only going to see YouTube. Facebook, you're only going to see Facebook in this system. I think Decimation Master doesn't give what wanted points, I think, in thousands, though. Yes, it does. Decimation Master will give points. No, you can give points as much as you want. You can go as low as it's going to be humanly possible, right? So if I want to decimate this, okay, so in my plugins, okay, I'm going to go to Decimation Master. Where are you? Decimation. Why I'm going blank. My eyes are like, there you are. Okay, so right here is exact numbers. You can put exact polygon count. I can say, right, I want 20,000, right? That's going to equal 32,000 points. So if I want 10,000 points, I would do this. If I want 1,000 points, I would do this. If I want less than that, then I go lower. That's 500 points now, right? So I would pre-process this first, okay? And then I can decimate, and then it's trying to give me that number, right? So as much as it can, whatever this number's at, this is what it's going to try and give you. So this is about typing in value, see? This is 10,000 polygons, which is 5,000 points. See, 5,000 points. Right, so I can go down to 1,000. See, there's 1,000-ish. There's 500. But it's all triangulated. There's 100, right? Right, so you can do that with Decimation Master. It's beautiful. Modern artwork. Bingo. Okay, so that is possible for that. During the summer, Matt, I couldn't say anything about discounts. I couldn't tell you. You'd have to tune in to see. One general question: game industry is easier, or is the animation VFX industry easier, character-wise? Which is more of a headache? Listen, that's both sides of the coin. For the most part, you stay in the same kind of pipeline, i.e. just making the stuff. Where it veers off is when you're starting to now get in the final results, right? For film world, detail is super important. So those artists tend to go into hundreds of millions of polygons, and a lot of those artists are using HD geometry. Gaming, it's the opposite now. You got to get in an engine, so there's about reducing the polygon count more than anything, and then using the maps to push the detail, which you're still going to use, right, in the film world. But then again, you know, if I'm in the film world and let's say I'm just sculpting my head, in the film world, my head could be like 1 billion polygons in the renderer. And then I'm going to be using maybe 50 different maps, regions on a head. You're not going to do that in a video game. It's not playable, right? So then that's where that veers off, where the head's one mesh, and you might get maybe 1 UDIM or 2 UDIMs to do the head. Okay, probably 1. Okay, and then that's where it veers off and also can go very different. So as far as headaches go, people who are in these industries could probably jump in here. I think they both have things. I think everything you're going to do, you're going to run into things where there's work you're like, ugh, or work that is just not fun work. Like, how many of you love doing UVs? None of us want to sit there, I'm going to do UVs all week. Woo! Nobody wants to do that. Or generating maps and then sitting there trying to get them to tweak in your engines or your renderers. That's not the fun part of CG, right? The fun part of CG is creation process, right? As well. And then getting it to look photorealistic, I say, was the other front side part of rendering and stuff like that. But for me, I love the creation process. So people can jump in there on that question. Since you guys can't see everyone's comments, he was asking, game industry is easier, or is the film VFX industry easier character-wise? Which is more of a headache? So they both have their things, for sure. Film-wise, it's going to be about topology, clean topology, getting it in your renderer, getting the maps, getting them to do your job. Is it possible to move the gizmo and have the mesh snap to that? So what you're looking for is if I draw something out like this, right? And then you move the gizmo like this and you want it to snap to the gizmo itself? No. No. This isn't just going to move to where the gizmo is positioned in space. However, I could now position the gizmo and just click on this again and see it will move, right? Because I can swap this out with anything when the gizmo's on. That will work. But I can't tell the mesh where it is in space. Now go find the gizmo and go to that location of the gizmo. Can't do that. I can only do that with home button, which is going to go back to the center of the world. Right? So when you click home, see the gizmo goes home. If I click home without, see they both go home. Okay. Turbo. I like to use abbreviations. Hold on, where was I? You guys just had some more stuff come in. Alex, are you asking if you can use ZSketch? Sure. Yeah, of course. It's built inside of ZBrush, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, you can use ZSphere ZSketch, sure. If you want to do this and then start doing, you know, this kind of stuff, yeah, 100%. This is ZBrush. So 100% you can use this. Build up however you want the surface, right? Absolutely. If this old tool, if you want to use this, I'd love to see some of this. Totally go to your stream during the competition too, man. It'd be awesome to see. This is older. Fun little muscle structure. If this is what you're asking to use this, sure, absolutely. This is built in ZBrush. You can 100% use that. And what you were saying that called a rare unique town right here. Oh, thanks. Very kind of you, Eddie. Hold on. Oh, you guys just came in. A week of just UVs. Mick, you want to do a week of UVing? You'll get hired real fast at a studio. Listen, if you've been in the industry of the film world and now you've got a job offer for gaming, transitioning is not going to be that difficult. And then let's be honest, in the gaming world's changed a lot, where even the topology they're putting in the engines now isn't even that crazy off from the film world. They're still going to reduce and triangulate certain things to keep the reduction down, for sure. And then you got to remember what your major thing is going to change. You were in a rendering world where you click a button and they're okay if a render takes 5 minutes. In a game world, it's all real time, right? So that's the only gap. But if you've been in a film world, you can transition. I know a ton of artists have done, so don't worry about that. If you've been in film forever and you're transitioning to a gaming position, you'll be fine. Trust me. Same thing for a gaming person. I know a ton of artists that have jumped back and forth between those two industries. Comes down to your talents. Right? So don't be worried about it. We got a couple people that are saying UV. I'm going to hire you guys when I need stuff UV'd. How do you insert a reference photo? Well, keep in mind, part of the rules, okay, is not to bring in any references that we can see inside of your screen. Okay, as far as like imagery, because that'll give away what you're sculpting reference. So you got to have it on the side. But as far as just understanding that in ZBrush, there's like 5, 6 different ways to bring in reference images. Okay, so the floor grid is one way. If you just turn on your floor, and in the draw palette, you have right here, front, back, up, down, left, right. So I can just click on this, and there's 2 maps. So there's a map for the front and the back. So I just click on this. I can bring in any image that I want, right? Just click it, and then it'll plop into place, right? And then this is transparent, the model, because your fill mode here is set to 3. Okay, and if I set it to 2, it's not transparent as much. This is now just changing the image transparency. Okay? But then you can do this and set it to front. The image is in front. Okay? And then you can even adjust these images, right? So if we go with a different image, here, let's go with the logo. you have the ability with this to actually scale the image, move it in horizontal, vertical. You can rotate it. You can flip it. You can just do 90-degree rotations. You can inverse it and be really cool. And then you can adjust it. And this is like cropping. So if I just only want a certain section of the image, and then that's crop the image out. So this would be one way that you can bring in reference images, which I'm a big fan of this one, especially when I'm doing stuff like hard surfacing and things like that. I really like that. So that's one way. Okay. Another way is you can just use Spotlight, right? So just get a texture image. Here, we'll just do it through here. Take this and add it to Spotlight, right? So these are floating around. You can resize them. There's a transparency opacity player here as well. Not that one, this one. See, I can change the opacity of the imagery. I love this one. I use this a lot, especially when I'm making something. I have a bunch of images all over the place on my document. Okay. Then you hit the Z key so that the images stay. But then what's really important, Lisa needs brace this moment, over here in the brush, okay? You're going to want to go to samples and turn off this spotlight. So I need a brush that can turn, right? You want to make sure that spotlight projection is on. Let me select a model that's not a Z sphere model. Okay? So you want to come in here and make sure this is off. Because if you don't turn that off, then it's looking to try and project the images onto the model. Okay? So that's another way, right? And then another quick way is right here in the texture, you can come down here to image plane, and you can open up reference images and see they're the front, back, and see because this model's built correctly, see it snaps right to those points of interest. Okay, so if we turn off the floor grid, okay, you can now come in here. Okay, and then you can say, well, this, I want to load an image, and then it's going to open up a finder, which I don't think I have any images. Let's see. I'm on a freshly new, I don't have any images on this computer. I hear a title bar. There. See, now this is my title bar for this stream, and then this image is behind, right, the model, and only the model moves. The image doesn't move. Okay. And then in here, you can still actually, though, tell the model to be transparent, right? So now see it's looking through the model. So this would be another way, okay? And then when you load this to this, you want to say store view. And then so when you switch to a different view, let's say left, you see that image is gone? And what it's also done is if I even do this, okay, and let's store this view, okay? And when I go back to the front view, see it brings the image and the position of the model. And if I go back now to left view, you see it put the model back where it was sitting. So that's another way. Does that help? You're welcome for the coffee machine. Wasn't my creation. Alex back from dinner. Okay, did that answer your question from the image plane? I mean, the image referencing? I do not do any programming, no. Make believe, I don't know, think of something that, you know, I don't know, I'd say look what, you know, what cartoons have you last watched growing up, comic books, if you're into that, and think about a character to reimagine differently. Like, what if Alice, like I said, well, the last one I said, what if, you know, a character like Alice in Wonderland, instead of her being a young girl, what if she was an older woman? And that's when she discovered the rabbit hole, right? I'll select a subtitle with alt-click. Guillermo, I don't know. I don't have any problem selecting with alt-click. The only thing I can think of maybe you ran into is, do you have live booleans on? And that might be what it is, because you might have a subtool that's actually sitting in front of the subtool you're trying to click on. And when you're going to click in that space, ZBrush is like, well, I'm clicking on the subtool. It's the subtool. Like, so that might be the only thing I can think of, maybe, that you've ran into. So i.e., Let's insert. Otherwise, I would need to see a video and have the model, right? There, come on. Hold on, my Wacom. There we go. Okay, so let's make this attractive. Turn on light booleans. All right. Draw mode. Let's see what else do I have on. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna restart fresh. I have image plane and everything going on right now too. Hold on. I have this opacity set up right now. I'm just gonna start fresh. So this is the only thing maybe I can think of that you're running into that you might want to look at is this, right? So this cube, right, is going into the head. So I'll click here all I want. ZBrush can't give you the head because there's the cube there. So you got to come over here to select the head. So you might be running into that because it is giving you the selected subtool. This is the subtool. This is the subtool that's being selected. So it's the only thing I can think of. I would need to see the model to see what you're running into. Comics Legend. I'm working on doing a Gundam. Yep. Rodolfo, your question is, would it be viable to turn a lean superhero into a bodybuilder wrestler? Yeah, you could go with that, but I would take it another step further. Like really think outside the box, probably. Right, but that's definitely an approach. Like going real crazy, like taking a superhero and that's human and making it an animal or a robot instead. Right, that's reimagining it in a different way. Right, and then just using the color scheming to push the character. If there's defining things on the character, adding that into your reimagination. And you do another theme model. Yeah, I'll be doing another theme model thing in the future for sure. Absolutely. You're using the contrast brushes with Sculptris Pro. I don't know if I would even do that. That's not really the Sculptris brushes. I mean, the contrast is just about pushing the details. I wouldn't use it with Sculptris Pro. In fact, I thought we had turned it off for that. Hold on, let me put something here. Right, and then now contrast delta, right? So this is just pushing the details, right? And now you're turning on Sculptris Pro as well to push those. So it's working fine for me, but obviously you can see it turns it off. So you can turn off live boolean, right? It's automatically going to turn it off. So you can't use Sculptris Pro with the contrast brushes if that's what you're asking. Well, Turbo, again, I don't know how you're even doing it because we're going to turn off the code. If that's the brushes you're talking about, those contrast brushes. Because you can't make new topology and push out what was existing there at the same time. So if you're talking about you took a Sculptris Pro mesh and then you're trying to contrast that, is that what you're trying to do? Like if I take this and we turn on Sculptris Pro and I just smooth this out a little bit, and then now you're turning off Sculptris Pro and then now you're trying to contrast that like this. Yeah, that's expected because this is all triangulated, right? So the topology that exists is triangulated pretty relatively low, right? So there's not much we can do about that, right? Because see, it's just pushing the topology that exists. right? If that's what you're referring to. But I'd say make a support ticket, send it on in through for us. Yeah, you can take something from mainstream comics or films, yeah. Okay, Turbo Grappler, I'd have to look. I'm using a Mac side when I do all my work. I'm never really on a Windows machine anymore. So we'll have to take a look. Send in a support ticket, support@pixologic.com. We have to see, there could be something very specific that you're doing that's causing your crash. Okay, so that's the beauty of software sometimes. You got to find there's something very specific that's being done that's causing what you're running into. You can use any brush that does not change the topology. So no IMMs, no alphas, but VDMs is fine because it's not actually changing the topology. All right. Well, unfortunately, guys, I got to go. I thank you all for joining me in this stream. I appreciate it. Again, if you haven't signed up for the Sculpt-Off, do it now. Sign-ups end Wednesday, okay, the 20th at midnight our time, 11:59 p.m. my time here in LA. That's it. If you have not signed up by then, you can't sign up on the Thursday, the day of the competition, or the day before the competition. We can't, no, that's it. The sign-ups end on Wednesday, okay? So Wednesday is where you'd want to get going. If you haven't signed up already, go to our summit.pixologic.com, get signed up, right? And remember, you all are winning something as long as you follow the rules, right? And you post your final image in the thread that is designated, right? So visit that summit.pixologic.com, get signed up, right? So that you guys can have that. And then again, if you have any other questions coming through, okay, by all means, come on through and send stuff to the email leading up to the competition. Once everybody is signed up, I'm going to be sending another email to you all on Thursday, just reminding you of some major items that are really important for this Sculpt-Off, right? So you can ask questions through here. I'm going to say it over and over again. Read the rules, go through it. That answers a lot of your questions, right? And if there's something that after you read that you're not sure of, then email us at that email address, okay? Email us at that ZBrushSummit@pixologic.com, okay? And again, we got some great prizes, and everyone's getting an XMD that's competing and submits their final image. All right, and then don't forget, not only do you have to submit your final image, you have to submit the video in your post as well. Don't forget, it's not just about the image that you're submitting. All right. Turbo Grappler, you got something else going on. What version are you using? So something else is going on with your system. You need to 100% make a support ticket. I can't really help you this way because I got to ask a bunch of questions and go back and forth with you. Because I just exported FBX today and I have no problems through export FBX. And what version are you using? Are you using the most recent version? So, yeah, Rodolfo, in essence, your stream that you do in the Sculpt-Off, when you submit your final image, you're also supposed to embed your stream. The winners are going to be announced Tuesday morning. It's the first thing we do in the ZBrush Summit, Tuesday the 26th. Yes, the VOD link. Great question, MJ. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Sculpt-Off. I'm looking forward to see you. I'll be there with Joseph Drust. Jessica Drew will be hopping around to all your streams. Looking forward to having that. And hopefully I see all you guys also on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Again, the Summit kicks off Saturday, the 23rd. You guys competing in the Sculpt-Off. We go all the way for presentations on the Sunday, Monday, and the Tuesday, ending the 26th of this month. So Thank you all for joining. Hopefully I was able to help give you guys some tips. This, of course, is being recorded and will be instantly up on our YouTube channel and on our Twitch channel. I'm Paul Gaboury with Pixologic, and I'm out!